Here's another example of our finding probability. Phoenix is a hub for a large airline. Suppose that on a particular day, 8,000 passengers arrived in Phoenix on this airline. So we want to make sure that we highlight that number there. Then it says Phoenix was the final destination for 1,200 of these passengers. So let's highlight that number and take note of what that means. The others were all connecting to flights to other cities. On this particular day, several inbound flights were late and 470 connecting passengers missed their connecting flight and were delayed in Phoenix. Then it talks about a whole nother set of the 470 that were delayed. 65 were delayed overnight and had to spend the night in Phoenix. So we want to pay careful attention to what all of these numbers are so we can find the correct probabilities. 1,200 of these were passengers where Phoenix was their final destination. Okay, and then we're going to go ahead and just figure out a few other things. Calculate the following probabilities, and they want us to consider the chance experiment of choosing a passenger at random from 8,000 passengers and round an answer to the nearest 3 decimal places. So part A says calculate the probability that the selected passenger had Phoenix as a final destination. So if I go back up, I know that we had 8,000 total passengers, and of those 8,000, we know that 1,200 of them had Phoenix as their final destination. So 1,200 divided by 8,000 gives me a decimal of 0.15. If they want me to round to the nearest 3 decimal places, I'm just going to put a 0 after that 5. So that's the probability that the passenger selected had Phoenix as their final destination. Part B, calculate the probability that the selected passenger did not have Phoenix as their final destination. Well, we know that if 1,200 were going to Phoenix to stay, we also know then that 8,000 minus 1,200 would be the 6,800 or 6,800 passengers had connecting flights out of the 8,000. So if you were to pick one of them at random, the probability of you getting a passenger that did not have Phoenix as its final destination would be 0.85. And again, because I'm rounding to 3 decimal places, I'm going to just go ahead and put a 0 after that 5. So 85%. Part C, calculate the probability that the selected passenger was connecting and missed the connecting flight. So from that 8,000, again, you want the ones that were connecting but missed the connecting flight. And so of the 6,800, we know that 470 of them missed their flight. So that 470 would be out of 8,000 total passengers. And when I do that division, I get 0.05875. So 0.059 is what I would round to. And I know WebAssign is real particular about rounding, so be careful on that. Part D, it says calculate the probability that the selected passenger was a connecting passenger and did not miss the connecting flight. So they were a connecting passenger, but they didn't miss. So if 6,800 of them were connecting and 470 of them missed, then we know that 6,330 of them did not miss their flight, their connecting flight. So I could choose 6,330 out of 8,000 passengers that fall within that, and the probability of me selecting one of those to the nearest 3 decimal places would be 0.791. Calculate the probability that the selected passenger either had Phoenix as a final destination or was delayed overnight in Phoenix. So the probability that they had Phoenix or delayed in Phoenix overnight, delayed overnight, What's that probability? Well, I can use that probability rule that we know, or property, and I can go ahead and add those two probabilities together. So the probability that they had Phoenix as their destination, we did that in part A, so that was 0.150, or 1200 over 8,000. The probability of being delayed overnight in Phoenix, if we look, being delayed overnight, there was 65 of them out of 8,000 total passengers. So when I add those two decimals together, I get 0.008125. Or yeah, that's what this fraction comes to. When I add them together, the two decimals, I get 0.158125. So rounding to the nearest third decimal place would be 0.158. Hopefully you got those same answers.